whose work we're here to celebrate tonight. I'm honored to have Miss Geeta Canpadee here, who happens to be my aunt, and we are here to present the latest book, Colors, Red, Green, and Everything in Between. The book is a captivating memoir tracing the author's personal journey across India, China, and Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia, where she is currently residing. More than a traditional memoir, this book unfolds as a rich collection of stories and cultural observations drawn from her interactions with people across borders. It's fascinating to see how she highlights cultural memories that have traveled across generations and the faces they leave behind in nature festivals, arts, and architectures. The book, Colors, Red, Green, and Everything in Between, is the author's fourth published book. She published the first book right out after high school, which is titled The Mystery of the Mysterious Cave. That was followed by The Ambulance Mystery and College Number 30. All were children history, adventure novels filled with suspense and wonder. While living in Chennai, she was also associated with the Gokulam Children's Magazine, which contributed to young readers and nurturing the love for stories. After moving to China, she took a break from publishing, spending the next few years traveling and immersing herself in foreign cultures, experiences, and that eventually gave birth to this memoir. Without further ado, let me invite the author and give her over the microphone to speak.
Thank you, Anshula. I call her Anshu. And a warm welcome to everybody who is gathered here. Thanks for coming. It means a lot. The book actually it starts with a preface. The preface is the first 20 years of my life. I grew up in a very small town called Popal in Mount Kailash, very close to Mumbai, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But in the 1970s, this place never existed on the map of India. So every time somebody would ask where is Popal, I had to give the neighboring towns and cities and say it's near Hubli or near Belgaum, and that is the kind of town I grew up in. Very small town, and which didn't have a bookstore or a school, they didn't have a library. So books has always been like my window to the world. So whenever I would visit cities, I would buy a bunch of books, which would keep me occupied the entire year. So the preface, if I write a memoir, then the preface itself will be one whole book, but I've condensed it into a few pages. The memoir, Colors, Red, Green, and Everything in Between, it starts from my journey from Chennai to Shanghai. So the chapter 1, show to show, I'm going to read a paragraph from the chapter 1, and I've picked and chosen a few chapters. I'd love to read the entire book, but it'll take the entire evening if I read the whole book. So I've just picked a few paragraphs. The chapter 1 is called Show to Show, so let me read a paragraph from it. On an August evening in 2011, I said goodbye to Chennai and boarded a flight to Shanghai. As the plane lifted over the Bay of Bengal, a series of what-if scenarios raced through my mind. What if the entire thing turns out to be a disappointment? What if the people who want me were correct? What if I can't adapt to the Chinese way of life? What if I can't communicate and must rely on gestures? What if I accidentally eat meat? What happens if the plane crashes before we land? Well, that was too much of a what if. I put the window shutter down and forced myself to sleep. A few days later into our new routine, we were awakened in the middle of the night by loud noises. Rats were running toward the apartment. Rats on the 14th floor, I felt terrified. Had the rats been here before? Had the house sat empty for long? Waited other unwelcome guests such as lizards and cockroaches? I remained restless. Waited until daylight, then called the agent and vented my frustrations. She apologized immediately and dispatched this control personnel. 2 rounds of treatment were administered and the rats were caught. But warnings from home came back to me. Living in a foreign country is not the same as visiting it there at explained. You will be out of your comfort zone. You will have to handle everything on your own. They had been correct, at least this once. But little did I know, this was only the beginning. So then I moved to the chapter 2, which is called the flow. Because people had warned me that, it's not going to be easy in Shanghai, country like China. We are going to struggle. So they even said, you can stay back and let your husband go. You stay back and you can go on a tourist visa. But then I just followed him. And when I picked this house, the 49th floor, it had this, the Chinese never choose the number 4 because it sounds with death. So the Chinese are huge on homophones. So the same, the name like Sir, it is called Sir, the E.R. Sun Sir, the 4th number. The Sir can mean number 4, it can mean death as well. The way you pronounce it, it can have the real meaning. So 4 is a very bad number. I never knew it. So when I chose the house, like casually, like okay, 49 means okay, and I moved into the house. But then, 15 days or nearly a month later, an incident happened which started making me doubt about the decision making. So October 11, 2011, everyone began to work shortly after Golden Week, a national holiday commemorating the founding of the People's Republic of China. By then, I had finally gotten rid of the rats and unpacked the last of the boxes. Exhausted from the appeal of settling in, I slumped onto the sofa, hoping to catch a few minutes of rest. The cell phone began ringing. It was an unknown number. I ignored it at first, but it kept ringing. Ring, ring, ring. When I finally responded, the voice on the other end was broken. Upon in India, it stated, Father is no more. He died this morning. What? Who's a car? I asked. I could not recognize the voice. What are you saying? Well, your Papa. Our doctors are suffered a heart attack, the voice said before trailing off. It happened so quickly, too sudden. I have never felt more helpless in my life. Standing alone in our Shanghai apartment, I heard and I looked out over the vast distance beyond the Huangpu River. So we had taken a house just opposite the Huangpu River, which is a tributary of Yangtze. So according to Feng Shui, it was one of the best houses. The Chinese believe that, you take a house facing the water body, that would be the best possible house you could live in. But then this 49B, the number 4, so I started doubting, So I lost my dad suddenly, just a month after I moved into the house. So could this factor would have been responsible for it? So that started ringing in my mind. So let me jump to chapter 3 now, because the chapter 2 is like the journey I made that I got to see my dad. All the whenever I reached my hometown, the cremation was done. So then I just carried I'm being the eldest of the 2 daughters, so I carried his ashes and I returned back to Shanghai. So that's the chapter 2. In chapter 3, a couple of days, it's called the Chinese Army. A couple of days into the Shanghai winter, I received a call from an unknown number. Hi, this is Geeta Canpadee. I have heard about your father's death and wanted to offer my condolences. The voice said softly, my son is in the same class as your son. That is how I got to know. So, fortunately, I have my friend Geeta Canpadee here in the audience today. So, she was the first one who approached me. I didn't have any friends in Shanghai, and her son and my son happened to be classmates. And then she got to know I was my dad, and she approached me. And she had already lived in Hong Kong, and she knew the Chinese customs. And she actually told me the first time I heard about the fourth factor, it was from her. And then here we have another couple who helped me. That's Sanjay and Geeta Canpadee. See, I'm again fortunate to have them here. Both of them. We're going to come in the front seat, please. Yeah, so I mentioned them in the Chinese eye. So it was all a coincidence, They never knew I'm coming here and having this, book launch, and they happen to be here. All Sanjeev, Ritu, and Putris, all three of them happen to be here. I'm very grateful. So with the Chinese eye, then I have some problems with the eyes. They don't speak Mandarin, and communicating with them is really hard. And then one of the eyes, she got in some problems like regarding her commission and all that. And then again, it was the power couple who came to my help. So I'm very grateful to all our basic Indians in Shanghai who helped me during my stay there. The next chapter is Bookanians, that is book companions. And even here I had a Chinese friend. We both ran a bookstore, a second-hand bookstore. With people who live Shanghai, like expats, when they left Shanghai, they would donate all their books. And then we would collect those books, and we would sell them, and proceeds would go to schools funding children's collection. So the Chinese refer to Indians as Indian, and Hindu then means people. So people from India called Indian. So I went around finding this Hindu connection, so it's again in the chapter. So I go to the London place, I go visit the Shaolin temple where I discovered Buddhism Dharma, and from there, Tagore, I discovered Rabindranath Tagore. He's the second most popular writer in China after Shakespeare. So that was quite a revelation to me, and his works have been translated to Mandarin, and he's highly in the world. And then I visit the National Museum of Cambodia in Mount Kailash, where I come face to face with the statue of Mali and Suprema, whom we cover close in Bandra. So I have a picture also. At the end of the book of this massive human-sized statues. And then I found statues of the Pandavas and Duryodhana playing a game of dice. So all massive human-sized, which I haven't seen anywhere in India. So those are wherever I went, I try to see if I could find something, somewhere in India, in different places I visited. Then I went to Antalya, Bali, and finally in Kuala Lumpur, when I visited Little India is called Putris there. When I visited the Vivekananda ashram, and I just literally I had tears because the school I went to is named after Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda School. And seeing this statue in Kuala Lumpur, it was like coming on full circle. So I was really, and Vivekananda has visited Malaysia, that's what I mentioned about that. So that is how, and as I stand far from home, looking up at the face of Swami Vivekananda in a foreign land, I think of all the Indian men who journeyed across lands and seas, century after century, leaving behind footprints and stories for people like me to trace, discover, and cherish the Hindu tradition. The next chapter is called Ramchan Ramhai. So when, as I said, Mandi means people, the Shan is mountain and Hai is sea. So during my travel from China, I frequently heard the phrase Ren Shan Ren Hai, which means mountains of people, seas of people. The phrase defines not only China but also India. These two countries have been among the most populous on the planet since time immemorial, owing to fertile soil and minimal rich rivers that allow for dense settlements and high birth rates. People have always been their most valuable assets. They not only multiplied at home, but also moved abroad. It's a common joke that if you throw a stone anywhere in the world, it will most likely land on a Chinese or an Indian. So when I first arrived in China, the sheer number of people made me feel right at home. Ren Shan, Ren Hai, people everywhere, and I loved it. But after COVID-19, I experienced a shift in how I celebrated Ren Shan, Ren Hai. Suddenly, fewer people meant a better world. People became wary of each other. The first few months felt unnatural, but gradually less interaction brought more peace. I began to enjoy the solitude. However, after the pandemic, Ren Shan Ren Hai returned with a vengeance. Everywhere I go, I see seas of people, mountains of people. Everyone seems to be traveling as if there is no tomorrow. So there was a time when I thought too many Ren was fun. But now all I wanted to do was run from all the Ren. So that's how I end the chapter. So then coming to colors, red, green and everything in between, which is the title of the book. So there is something about festivals and colors. They always go hand in hand. For the Chinese it is red. Come the new year and the entire nation transforms into a carpet of red. Red is deeply symbolic in Chinese culture, representing wealth, fortune, abundance and prosperity. People dress in red, decorate their homes with red lanterns and banners and paste auspicious sayings on doors and windows. Sweets and gifts are packed in red boxes and money is handed out in red envelopes called hangbao or ampong. For the Malay Putra, the color is green. During Hari Raya, so Ramadan is called Hari Raya in Malaysia, which marks the end of Ramadan, everything turns green. Green clothes, green home decor, green sample date raya, they are the envelopes in which the festive money is handed out. The fast is broken on Hari Raya Adil Fitri and celebrated with generous feasts. Green and yellow lanterns hang from homes and traditional oil lamps placed inside hollow bamboo tubes with holes light the way. And for Indians, it's red, green, and everything in between. We even have a festival just for color, that's Holi. But color seeps into all parts of Indian culture. Vermilion, turmeric, indigo, henna, and nature's palette show up in rituals, fabrics, festivals, and food. Right after Chinese New Year and before Hari Raya comes Thai Pusap, which is a national holiday in Malaysia. Dedicated to Lord Murugan, it is celebrated with deep devotion by Tamil Malaysians. Dressed in bright saris and dhotis, they follow the silver chariot that carries Murugan's idol all the way from Sri Mahamariamman temple to Batu Caves. Then comes Deepavali, which is another national holiday in Malaysia. Brick fields in Kuala Lumpur explodes with color. Garlands of marigolds and chrysanthemums, hanging diyas, columns and happy Deepavali signs in Tamil deck malls and homes. Laddus, murukus and Indian-style sweets are exchanged with neighbors. And in a Malaysian twist, Indians now hand out hand pav. So Indians also during Deepavali, they hand out the red envelope. They are just like how the Chinese do. And then they host open houses during Hari Raya and Ramadan. They have these feasts, they host open houses. So similarly, the Indians also have started. The Indian Tamils started doing it. Gatherings for festive feasts, blending Chinese and Malay customs into Indian festivities. And as the year winds down, Christmas brings back red back again, completing the circle of colors. So these are just small snippets I'm reading. Then coming to cultural memory. Cultural memory is, India and China have been the two surviving
civilizations on the planet today, the biggest surviving civilizations. And between these two countries are the Southeast Asian countries, which act as a cradle between these two countries. And over the years, there have been a lot of cultural memories that have been passed on from China and India, and it's still retained in Southeast Asian countries. So they looked up to China for political and economic support, and they looked up to India for spiritual and education and philosophical ideas. They looked up to India. So we have, for example, many ask on this cover, what is this? This is a shadow puppetry, which is very popular in Southeast Asia. It's called Vayam Kulit, and the stories are all from Ramayana or Mahabharata. So we may not have it in India, but it's still there in Southeast Asia. So there are many the cultural similarities, and they've retained it as cultural memory. And when I went to Bali, I found a guy on the Pantai. There's a beach called Pantai Pandava Beach. And this guy was reciting the Gayatri mantra. He said, I recited 3 times a day. So he recited it, and I was really mesmerized how well. And he said, no, it's quite common. All of us do it 3 times a day. And there was this guy who displayed his arm, and there was a huge tattoo, Ganesha tattoo on his arm. I have posted the picture. The picture is there. That's a literal, and you can see the guy with his arm tattooed. And but nevertheless, there were things like India, but it was not India actually. There was a difference. So I believe when Rabindranath Tagore went to Java, he's supposed to have said that I see India, but I don't recognize India. So I also felt the same when I went to Bali. It was it. I could see, it looks like India, but then it didn't feel like India. So then coming to probably, the majority here are women. They would really love this chapter. So it's called Daughters and Putris. In Malaysia, the girls are called Putris. The boys are called Putras, and Putris. Girls are called Putris. So if you grew up as a girl in the 1960s or 70s, particularly in small towns, you would probably relate to what I am about to say. The primary goal of a girl's life back then was to marry and start a family. It could have been a scene straight from Pride and Prejudice or Little Women. Only a handful went on to become engineers, physicians, or lawyers. Most were groomed to be beautiful wives and dutiful daughters-in-law. There was an unspoken competition among the mothers. One would enroll the daughter in stitching and embroidery, while another insisted on knitting and painting. A third would proudly claim that cooking and housekeeping were essential life skills, because at that time it was unheard of to ask a prospective groom if he could cook. So, there are many other bizarre encounters, like a woman who made the potential bride walk back and forth to check if she had a limp, made her sing to test her voice, and tugged at her hair to ensure it wasn't a wig. So all these incidents. So the story of daughters across Asia isn't too different. Mothers worked tirelessly to prepare their girls for marriage. Outdoor play ended around age 5. Girls were kept indoors to master the arts of cooking, sewing, and social etiquette. Some mothers would travel to neighboring towns to learn a skill so that they could teach it to their daughters. Wealthier families hired tutors, while royal families taught calligraphy, martial arts, and even the art of seduction under strict supervision. So every lesson was a step towards one goal, marriage. So in Java, girls were trained to walk with a duck-like gait as a sign of modesty. They would walk like, the ducks walking in Java. The girls were taught that. So similarly, there are a lot of instances. So I am sure, I visited the Lotus Feet Museum in a place called Luzon near Shanghai, and it was for centuries the mothers in China had bound their daughters' feet tightly to shape them into delicate lotus buds. It was seen as beautiful and etiquette to wear. So similarly, even in India, I still remember till my grandmom's time, there were many ladies who, when they became widows, they shaved their heads. So voluntarily they did it. So you have to not look beautiful. Once you are a widow, you have to look ugly. So that was there. So like shaving of heads and the foot binding in China. So they were very similar, But now it's totally, today's mothers continue to push their daughters, but now it is for careers and confidence rather than cooking and conformity. So I just go on to explain how today's mothers have transformed and how the daughters even in Malaysia they even if they wear the hijab they still they drive, they mingle around, they wear business attire to officers, and very smart. So it's nice to see. Sometimes it's you feel like this is the generation to be born a girl. So lucky all of you. So then comes house helpers, and in this I have explained like all the cities where I have lived through, how the helpers have taught me a lesson or two, and how I have learnt a lot. But then, end of the day, all the helpers, whomever I have spoken to, they don't want their children, to get into this profession. They say no, we want our children to get educated and work in the offices, banks, doctors, become doctors, engineers. This should be the end. This should be the end. So I don't know. Like the West has moved on from this, the having help at home. But maybe a day will come in the East as well, when we won't get the next generation, the domestic help may not be available. But anyway, we have technology, and that will keep us going. So next chapter is what is in a name. So this is how I went around and I started picking, especially in Malaysia. So there's so many names connected to India, and so then you go on identifying, searching for the roots of all these names, Malaysia and Indonesia. So there's an entire chapter, and then there is a day in Kuala Lumpur. If I go on reading it, I can just go on. In Kuala Lumpur, most malls are interconnected by underground passageways, which are air conditioned. And as I walk through one such, I often think about ancient underground cities, such as those in Cappadocia, and how people built extensive networks of tunnels to escape the heat. Maybe this is something similar. Maybe we are no different from the ancients after all. I often meet lost tourists along the way, backpackers staring at their phones, trying to find their next stop. I have become something of a part-time interpreter. I offer directions, suggest Popitium, and even help with vlog intros if they are filming. Some thank me and promise to tag me in their YouTube comments. Some just wander away. So that is what, whenever I visit a mall, and these underground malls, and somehow there are many, I bump into a lot of YouTubers, and they just stop me and ask me for directions, and I give them a suggestion. You can go here, go there. So then comes the melting pot. It's basically the three cultures, like how Malaysia has both the Chinese Malaysians, the Indian Malaysians, and the Malay Malays. They all intermingle and they coexist. It's a beautiful thing to see there. So, and there's a lot of intermarriage happening. Intermarriage too is more common today. Perhaps it's the most poetic reflection of unity. One pot, three flavors. India, China, and Malaya simmering together. So they speak in Bahasa. That's the common link. Amongst themselves, they speak in Bahasa. And with others, they speak in Hindi. Last two chapters is the Yatra. It's called the Yatra, the Nepal chapter and the Tibet chapter. So this is, I go on a journey because I have my dad's asthi with me, the ashes. So one fine day I say, yeah, I have to let go. There comes a time when you have to let go. So this is the time I'll go to Manasa Sarovara and I'll let go of this in the holy waters. So I just read from the Tibet chapter, just one paragraph. The walk from Yamadwar to Dirapuk is about 13 kilometers. It takes 7 or 8 hours through a high altitude desert. On either side, the mountains stretch wide and bare. Prayer flags dance in the wind. Money stones etched with mantras line the paths, forming low sacred walls. I walked in silence, overtaken by sun and dust. Tibetans passed me, performing full body prostrations. They repeated it again and again, stretching for miles. The strength of their devotion and dedication was unwavering. I was moved and just couldn't fathom that kind of faith. A group of bonds passed in the opposite direction, walking the Kora anti-clockwise. Actually, the Kora, it's the circumambulate Manasarovar. The Tibetans call it Kora. Because from Manasa, we can drive to Darchen, the starting point of Kora, around Kailash. A group of bonds passed in the opposite direction, walking the Kora anti-clockwise. Many smiled and greeted me with folded hands and the warm, touchy the leg. May you be happy. This probably was one of the kindest blessings I have ever received. Just as the sky cleared, I saw a monastery on a hill to my left. It might have been the place where the yogi Milarepa once meditated. I was exhausted and unsure how far I had left to go. And then I saw it, Mount Kailash, black, sheer, colossal, streaked with snow, glowing under the sun rays. The north face shimmered like gold. I stood transfixed, unable to react. Then slowly I dropped to my knees, had no words, just tears. In that moment, everything fell away, my doubts, trepidation, exhaustion. I saw myself as this insignificant minuscule in front of the mighty mountain, a complete nothing, a complete nothing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that reading. Before we begin the conversation, I just want to say I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. It's an easy and delightful read, about 170 pages, and it's yet packed with such rich information that it almost feels like a travel guidebook, a cultural map, and a memoir all in one. The pictures also, which are included in the end, add so much charm and authenticity. They make the journey feel personal and vivid. With that, we'd like to dive into some questions. I have a few questions. I want to know, in your book, which is filled with such detail of cultural observations and anecdotes, how did you manage to collect all this information across countries? Was it through journaling, conversations, or just living the experience?
I would say it was living the experience because I don't maintain a diary, and wherever I go, I just take a notepad and just make a note of something I find interesting. I'll make a note of it, and that was before the pre-mobile era. But once I got the mobile, yeah, you have the mobile and then you just click pictures and. But I have this. I love to visit museums. Wherever I go, the first thing is I go visit a museum, and then you get authentic information from museums. And I buy the museum book, and I love to go to the museums and see what I can find. You need a keen observation when you go to the museum. Need some patience and the Islamic Art Museum in KL. I recently had visited, and there was this section called caping. There was beetle leaf shaped metal. It was made of metal. It was shaped like a beetle leaf. And then they said it's called Arai Mudi or Aruda Mudi, and it came from Tamil Nadu, and the Kelantan royal family used it as a covering for the children's modesty. They used to use that. So I don't know if we'll find that in Indian museums here, but I found it there. And then the very next exhibit, I found a pair of padukas. It was mentioned padukas, what are the saints and rishis use. made of ivory. So you don't know how long it's going to be there, but then I quickly clicked the picture. I would have included it here, but there were a lot of I had limitations on the picture, so I couldn't include. So talking of museums, there was this in 2018 I visited Srinagar, and like my driver was like, cab driver said, "Madam, kaha le jana hai? Pehle kaha jayenge?" I said, "Srinagar Museum," and he had a hearty laugh. He said, नहीं सभी लोग डाल लेक देखने जाते हैं we want to go to the museum. So I said हाँ जाएंगे डाल लेक भी जाएंगे but let's go to the museum. I was really impressed with the kind of statues, dating back to 280, much before that. They were from Afghanistan, and this lot of Buddhist Buddha statues of Buddha and Shiva and Vishnu. It's amazing, amazing. So I just have the pictures, and maybe in the future I have that whatever museums I have visited. Maybe all the pictures I can collate and bring it out in the form of a book. So museums have been my authentic source of information. And then talking to people. Like if I go to a market, if there is no language barrier, I just cut a conversation and speak with the people there and get to know. So that has helped writing this book.
So your book also has a very striking cover. Could you tell us the story behind this design and what inspired the choice of the colors and the imagery?
Yeah, colors was basically like colors, red, green, and everything in between. So initially, my the title I planned was China, India, and everything in between, like the two civilization, and then this the Southeast Asian countries. So then I said, no, it will be I don't know whether it will be proper to mention the countries, and the Southeast Asian countries may not like being called. We are in between. We are unique in our own way. Why these two giants? They basically historically these have been two giants, and they may not like that. So then I said, okay, let me stick to the colors. So red representing the China, green the Malaysia, and all the other rest of the colors India. So the book was like, this is the lion dance, the mask, they wear. And lion dancers during Chinese New Year, they go from house to, they are invited basically, the houses and shops and establishments invite them, and they are supposed to bring in good luck. And then they give them fruits and monetary, that money and gifts. And, similarly, we have tiger dances. Like in Karnataka, we call it Hulivesha, like in South Canada, where we basically come from, we call it Pilivesha. During the Janmashtami, they go from house to house, similarly. So I found a striking resemblance between the two customs. So they go dance, and it's they drive the evil away. They're supposed to drive evil away. So I found the traditions very similar. And then this is the tiffin carrier. It's there in all the Asian households. So they carry a lot of memories. And there in Malaysia we have the painted ones. They call it timber. And all the sweets, and during festivals, they all the sweets are stored in it, and then they are gifted. And even when the girls get married, it's given as a gift. So the slightly expensive ones made of copper, brass, or ceramic. And then we have the Diwali lamps, the oil lamps, and the Malays also have. They keep it in hollow bamboo, the oil lamps for Ramadan. So they also have a similar tradition. And then, as I already mentioned, this is the shadow puppetry, the Wayang Kulit. It's called the Wayang Kulit, made of leather, and the stories of mostly Ramayana. So there are characters like the Rama, Sita, Hanuman, Ravana, and then they have folk tales too. But it is, you can see in any museum you go, you can see this picture. And then we have the Mount Kailash. So it's a sacred mountain for the Jains, Buddhists, monks, Tibetans, Hindus, and so for me it was I had to immerse my dad's ashes, so that I had a purpose. But then after visiting Manasa Sarovar, I could have returned back. I was like exhausted, and lot of I said after having gone there, something pushes you. Say, oh, you've come this far, you can go a little further. So I don't think it was faith or whatever. I don't know what it was, but it pushed me to going there, and it was really peaceful.
I have one question, ma'am.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to go at that place?
Which place?
The place.
Yeah. See, actually, when my dad passed away, my town is very next door to Tungabhadra River. It's a very important, the Hampe is on the banks of Tungabhadra River. So many did, they joked, they said, why do you can just go and immerse the ashes there? Why do you have to carry it all the way to Shanghai? And it was very difficult, the copper, and I was scared the customs would say, you can't carry it in your carry bag, you have to check it in. And I didn't, have the guts to check it in. And what if it goes missing? So somehow I managed to carry, changing planes and all that, I managed to carry there. But, there was this, I think there was this guilt that, I haven't done enough for him. There was this guilt, and I had told him, I'll go to Shanghai and then I'll go. Those days we didn't have WhatsApp and, the Skype. I told him, yeah, I'll go there and I'll call you, on WhatsApp, and we can speak and I'll show you all this, And I believe he had told his, he never traveled outside our town. He was always in the town. He never liked traveling anywhere. Always there and attending to the people who came from all the neighboring villages. So I believe he told his patients and all that. Oh, my daughter, she's gone to that country, knows China, and he started explaining. And then from there she will call, and I can see her. It was something like he couldn't even imagine there was something like this, and he could. So I didn't. I was very busy with so I've written that in the book, and busy with my unpacking and those rats in the house and all that issues. I said, okay, I'll call him, and by then he was gone. So maybe I had that guilt in me that I haven't done enough. I promised I'll call, and I didn't even have the time to call him. And that probably thought, okay, at least, let me take him. It's the toughest journey. They say you can't make it to Kailash that easily, Manasar. So I said, okay, at least let me take him there and live him, which is supposed to be the most holiest place for us. So at least let go of him there. Yes.
So no questions, but some comments. I think so. It's very well written, especially for us. We were there 10 years back, and some of the memories just flashed by, as you said, correct. Some of the mentions, what you mentioned about number 4.
Yes.
Correct. I think so. First time also for us was a shock that there is no number 4.
Yes.
4th floor. Correct.
Yeah. China elevators. Yeah.
And then the wrench and run high. It's just passed through the memories. It's such a nice experience and very well put down. I think so. You have captured it very well.
Yeah.
So would love to read it because we'll be part of that.
Right. You would relate to it much better because the Chinese sentences, the words,
exactly.
People who have lived there would relate. Yeah, for you it will be a new experience, but I'm sure it's very simple. So there's nothing, no complicated words, and we'd love reading it. But we are similar in many ways. Both Indians and Chinese, we are very similar. When it comes to food, especially, they are also very particular about their food. They carry their migoren and this and that. Whenever they go abroad, they carry all their stuff. Like how we, some of us carry our stuff, wherever ready to eat and all that. They also do that. And then they go to places and then they boil, and the kettles and all spoil. And if it comes in international media, it is the biggest shame. It is losing face. They call it losing face. So many things. We are very similar in many ways. So I brought out all the similarities, and then even in Malaysia, and they're very very friendly. If you get to know them, they are very friendly, very helpful. So that's what I have even in Shanghai I had a good Chinese friend, even in Malaysia I have a very good Chinese friend. So I always feel like, if you can get along, if people to people we can get along, why not the countries? Because throughout history, I believe we have never gone to war. China and India have always had a cordial relationship, except in the 1962 with the war. Yeah, that was it. Otherwise, we've always been, friends. So I think I always felt that we can be friendly. So it looks like we are heading towards that. Hopefully, this will continue for some more time.
Who did the artwork, the cover page?
Yeah, this was actually my son who did it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'd like to say, the publisher, Brindarika Bose, she lives in Switzerland, and she has this Bose Creative Publications. She does it for a social cause. So she picks and chooses the authors who can write it for her, who can volunteer to write. So everything is voluntary. The book I have written, so I don't get paid anything. So I've done it for a social cause, and the proceeds from the book will go to small-time charity organizations. And so my son agreed to. I asked him, because without his, we need the youngsters to help us in many ways, because since it was a voluntary thing and she's not paying for any of the work that's done. So I requested him, and then he agreed to do it. It was, and even the foreword was written by Sandhya Vasudev. She also did it voluntarily, and she's done a very good job. So just read the foreword and you'll know what the book is all about. So in summer, she has summarized the entire book in the foreword, and she's done a very good job. So it was all voluntary work, and the proceeds, yeah.
I wanted to ask you how many. It's a beautiful read, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I think it's bringing the three countries together and everything in between. Yeah, it really makes us feel that there is so much similarity in every human being. You got it out in Asia and all, but I'm sure people who travel overseas and so many countries will feel it, and it's lovely. I want to know, how many years back did you think of writing this book? Has it been in your mind forever?
No, actually, it hasn't been in my mind. I used to, I travel everywhere and post on Facebook, all these pictures and all this. I just keep posting, and then there are a few people, putting that. Then my brother-in-law, actually, I believe he told my sister, why is she wasting putting these lovely pictures on Facebook? So she can as well, write about it. Yeah. So that was the seed that was, sown. I just then thought, probably I can write it so that it will reach a wider audience. And that's how I started. I just all the travel. Yes.
Writing a memoir is like revisiting the moments, visiting back again while you're writing. So a lot of times it works like catharsis. So was it like a catharsis to you, or was it a flow? What was it?
Yeah, it was a catharsis. Some of the topics like my growing up years. I grew up in that small town, and I remember the first time I came to Mumbai. Looking at the skyscrapers, I was like zapped. I said, my God, wish I could, live in one of these, one fine day. So then it so happened that I few years later, after I got married, we lived in Lokhandwala, the movie tower, 11th floor. That was the highest. Then I thought, oh, that is it, I'm living in the sky. And then we moved, and then Shanghai, I ended up living on the 56th floor. So that was I was like 49, first was 49, and then we shifted because of that number and all that. So when it came for the renewal, the house came for renewal, I went on the 56th floor. So then, it is like, whatever I would have experienced in my days, and I always felt, my cousins living in cities, they're so lucky. They have the best of everything, especially Mumbai. Mumbai, the chapati and all, when I would go, I would feel that. But then, it once, it comes. So I was really, like, as you said, it was a catharsis. And with my father's case, it was a closure. Writing this, it was a real closure. Closure, yeah. Vimana Sasarana, I just went back again. I said, yeah, that's it. I moved on, and he's up there somewhere, Because later on, during COVID, they were not allowed to go. I said I was one of the lucky few who could visit the place. This was in 2014. But now again, China has opened its borders and you can still visit. But I believe now you are not supposed to enter the lake. They don't allow you to step into the lake. But I was fortunate enough, I just went to the middle of the lake and just let go of his ashes.
If there are no other questions, I'd like to conclude. So, for anyone who's interested in getting the copy of this book, it's offline available at the Fictionary Store with the author's signature on it, and online you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Flipkart, or Poti.com, and it's also digitally available on Kindle. So, if everyone would just join me to thank the author one last time for sharing her wonderful stories with us today. And yeah.